We're told the solution to the housing crisis is high density. Millions more apartments are coming.
It's really hard as a teacher and a single mum to be able to afford a property, so kind of having an apartment or a unit was a way for us to get into the housing market.
The companies hired to manage these buildings are cashing in to the tune of $7 billion a year. But this strata industry is trapping apartment owners in a nightmare.
It's the hidden costs. It's the random mismanagement costs that you know nothing about.
Across the country, governments have failed to keep up.
There is no question we need to do a better job of regulating strata.
And they're not protecting owners.
The government's got to invest in this. It's all going to hell in a handbasket.
Earlier this year, we asked you to tell us your stories about living in strata. Thousands of you responded.
This is the spreadsheet that we produced, which documented every invoice that had been paid without our authorisation.
With horror stories of graft and greed.
Where are the votes? Why are you so... You're a lowlife. You're a scumbag. That's what you are. Hey, guys, we just got shafted.
It's just like a Pandora's box opened up and there's like one thing after the other.
Payments made for services not provided, and then...
In this Four Corners, we reveal apartment living is putting us at the mercy of a rapacious and unethical industry. The rot runs deep, from hidden fees to secret insurance kickbacks to deals with developers. Our findings will shock you.
It's almost as if the whole business model has been designed to, frankly, screw Australian apartment owners.
I always said this industry needs a Four Corners moment.
I wish I'd known that working with the strata manager was going to be so difficult and complex and time-consuming.
We start this story with the most common way that strata firms exploit apartment owners. Many of you told us strata managers charge you outrageous fees, which are completely unnecessary. Alison Park's strata manager really should have thought twice before trying to pull the wool over her eyes. It is a pretty special building.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it?
Wow.
So my background is in accounting. My whole career's been built around that. So when I came to live in this building, I wasn't really interested in doing my work in my home. But the longer I lived here, the more I realised that it looked like there were problems with the management of the finances. So that was why I got involved then.
And joined the committee?
Yes, yes.
When you buy an apartment, you become a member of the building's owners' corporation. It elects a committee to run the building's affairs. Alison Parks was the chair of her committee and began scrutinising the building's strata manager, a notorious company called Strata Plan. She soon found evidence of suspect practices. One was the way it billed owners for chasing overdue levies.
People were being charged in ridiculous fashions. There was 2 apartments at one stage that owed 60 cents each, and Strata Plan charged us $101.48 each to try and follow up on that 60 cents, which makes no economic sense at all.
Alison Parks and her fellow owners tried to rein the company in.
We withdrew the delegated authority for Strata Plan to sign off on payments. I wrote to them several times and said, this invoice is wrong, you have charged us too much, you need to refund the money, and they just ignored me. I've never seen it in over 40 years in accounting.
Worse, Strata Plan was charging owners to chase phantom, non-existent debts.
If there were 10 people who were actually in arrears, hadn't paid their levies on time. They were billing us for 34 notices being sent out. And what I discovered was a systemic problem. I'm repeatedly writing to them saying we're being overcharged, and they're still just helping themselves. Hand in pocket, strata plan, writing an invoice, paying themselves, overcharging us. And we can't stop it. It's like nightmare.
When the owners decided to terminate Strata Plan's contract, the company threatened litigation, demanding more than $50,000 compensation.
There was a section here, personal liability of committee members. It says each committee member may be held personally liable for damages and costs. Certainly committee members did feel intimidated, and you would.
The owners pushed back, and Strata Plan accepted a break fee of less than half that amount.
Strata Plan will try basically use their contracts to fight back and to fight those termination letters.
So this was an interesting one.
Jordan Reed's company has helped a number of owners escape from Strata Plan's clutches, including in one case where, upon termination, the company had demanded 9 years of fees.
Strata Plan came back and basically said that's going to be at a sum of $1.488 million, and we need that within 14 days, otherwise we'll seek legal action.
And what's your view of that?
It's just bully ball.
The Victorian Administrative Tribunal has repeatedly made findings against Strata Plan for taking owners' funds without authorisation. 2 years ago, it was thrown out of the industry peak body, the Strata Community Association, or SCA, for unprofessional and unethical conduct.
Strata Plan being kicked out of SCA, they're still in business. They're still managing companies. That has zero effect. And they're still going about those same mispractices that we've seen over and over again.
The man in charge of Strata Plan is Simon Sharma. He loves Italian sports cars. Oh, g'day, Mr. Sharma. It's Linton Besser calling from Four Corners. Hello, I'm in the lobby of your building. He didn't want to answer Four Corners questions. What you're saying to me is really important. You should come and say it. You should come and say it in an interview. Oh, he's hung up, but Simon Sharma said, in fact, the industry peak body, the Strata Community Association, is the one with real questions to answer, and he declined to do an interview. With house prices now out of reach for so many, our capital cities have nowhere to go but up. Problem is, you've told us you can't trust the people hired to look after your most important asset.
Being part of Strata makes you feel like you're not in control of your finances, and that's something that I don't like.
I wish I had known that of some of their performances in the past, because we found them to be deceptive.
We've never had a Strata meeting until January this year, and as far as I know, the units have been here more than 5 years.
The most frustrating thing was being ignored when I requested for information around their procurement of contractors.
It's turned into a massive headache.
I suppose it's that you feel helpless. There's nothing you can do other than sell it.
I have the authority and I have the power to run a meeting. You don't like it? You don't like it? Either you leave my meeting. Those members are the new committee.
This is Michael Lee, a Strata manager.
What was the vote? What was the vote?
Here, he's chairing a 2023 meeting of owners of his own Sydney apartment building. they're in disbelief at what's going on.
So the meeting is now officially closed.
What was the vote?
For more than 6 years, Michael Lee was the building's chairman, at times also its secretary and treasurer. David Pitt Owen fought for years to get him off the committee.
My motivation was to see the building in good shape. There were obvious problems, and we rarely had a strata meeting.
For 3 consecutive years, there was no annual general meeting of owners, and the building's finances were in serious trouble. Worse still was the state of the property itself.
I've seen walls collapse. I've seen water running down the sides of walls in bedrooms. I've seen water bubbling up through pipes onto the balconies and flooding bedrooms. Some of these people are living in shocking conditions, just shocking conditions.
In 2021, Michael Lee surprised owners with a proposal to release the builder from a lawsuit over the building's defects.
A lot of the owners in the top 2 floors had rotting staircases, rotting walls, rotting carpet. Water was coming in through ceilings, through light fittings. How could you say that the defects had all been fixed? How could you possibly release the builder?
David Pitt Owen spent the next 2 years leading a rebellion of owners against Michael Lee. By the time he arrived at the 2023 AGM, he believed he had enough votes to dislodge Michael Lee from the committee, but it wasn't to be.
I walked into the vestibule to be greeted by, would have been at least 7 security men. And I turned to one and I said, "Why are you here?" And he said, "Michael Lee's employed us." We were sort of herded like cattle by these security guards.
I run the meeting. I'm the chairperson. Please be respectful, okay?
Michael Lee's bouncers, paid for out of the owner's funds, blocked the doors.
I have the authority and I have the power to run the meeting. You don't like it? You don't like it? Either you leave my meeting or go level 14 afterwards.
They barred some owners from entering the room.
Let them in.
You can have.
Let them in.
You felt as though you were walking into a police state. It was just a horrible feeling.
You will be removed, all right, and that is a guarantee, okay? So
Lee railroaded the meeting.
your proxy are not valid. If you're not happy, go upstairs, okay? I don't care. Go to the Supreme Court. Go to federal court.
At the end of the meeting, Michael Lee announced voting for the new committee would be held by secret ballot, and he would be counting the votes.
Anybody not happy with the result, you have all the right to go upstairs, level 14. There's the tribunal. Or
This is our
you can go to
property
the,
as
you can
well.
go, doesn't really matter your property, it's also my property as well, okay?
The results, he claimed,
Those members are the new committee.
put him back in power.
What was the vote?
We were never shown the votes. He just came back up onto the stage and said, "These people have been voted in."
So the meeting is now officially closed.
What was the vote?
It was at that stage that all the security guards surrounded him.
You're a lowlife. You're a scumbag. That's what you are. Man. Hey guys, we just got shafted. Let's go, kids.
Weeks later, at the New South Wales Civil and Administrative Tribunal, Michael Lee consented to the appointment of a compulsory strata manager. The $50,000 a year contract was given to his wife's company.
It was disgraceful.
When a group of owners challenged the appointment, The tribunal in this building ruled Michael Lee's behaviour was dreadful. The AGM should be struck from the record and run again.
I find that the conduct of the meeting was egregious.
The tribunal condemned his use of bodyguards to block owners and reject their proxies.
I hope Mr. Lee is still listening. That is not permissible under the Act.
It also found that Mr. Lee consenting to the appointment of his wife's company was
so improper.
It had
absolutely no justification.
Mr. Lee declined to be interviewed and sent us legal threats. In an email, he said he acted properly at all times. We finally caught up with him at this building in Sydney's northwest, where he's about to run another Strata meeting.
Mr. Lee, ABC Four Corners, we're just wondering why it was okay for your wife's company to get that contract at apartment building. We've got some questions we'd really like you to answer. Don't shoot. Well, don't shoot. Excuse me, don't touch the camera. Excuse me, don't touch the camera. I told you. We're just trying to understand why it is that your wife's company got that contract, why that was okay for you to consent to that. I don't want to talk to you, okay? Please.
The New South Wales government has confirmed it has placed Michael Lee under investigation. When a new building is completed, often the developer still owns enough units in the building to control the owners' corporation and has the power to award a lucrative contract to a strata firm. The problem comes later, when the units are sold and building defects emerge. The new owners expect the developer to fix them and for the strata firm to act on their behalf. But here's the rub. The strata manager also wants to stay sweet with the developer, who has more buildings and more contracts in the pipeline. And this is how some strata firms become trapped in a fundamental conflict of interest.
It's a fantastic location. We're close to a train station. Public transport is excellent.
And the city's right there.
The city is right there.
When Gavin Cooper moved into his new apartment in Melbourne's trendy Paran, he had no idea of the strife to come with his strata manager, a company called Tideways.
Would have been within months of the building first settling that we really started to question the relationship between Tideways and the builder and whether they were acting in our best interests.
From the outset, the building had issues.
There were probably about $5,000 worth of invoices that accumulated over the first few months of things that needed to be fixed. Front doors breaking, handles falling off, things that needed to be fixed straight away so that residents could continue living here.
So this is the email. When Tideways asked the builder to reimburse these costs and fix other defects, the building company said all of the repairs should have been approved by it first.
The developer, Platinum, or our subbies will not be paying for your subcontractor's largesse. I made this clear to you when we gifted these buildings to your company.
And what did you take that to mean?
It led us to believe that Tideways were looking after the builder's best interest because they had given them the contract to manage this building.
That's absolute nonsense.
Oh my goodness.
The issue came to a head at a fiery meeting of the owners in late 2020.
Is this what this meeting is going to be about? Come on, people.
Which the builder attended.
You're disgusting lot. I've never done 100 buildings. I've never come across this in my life. I'm sorry, did you just call us a disgusting lot?
The builder insisted there was no conflict of interest in his dealings with Tideways.
We gifted, as I said, we gifted on one provisor. They look after the building.
But the owners weren't convinced. They had discovered the builder had benefited from a deal that gave away parking in the building for 99 years for just $1, and that Tideways had chaired the meeting where the deal was formalised.
That was completely inappropriate. It was thousands of dollars per car space.
On a property on the outskirts of Melbourne, former Tideways employee Stuart Martin reveals that first meeting and the parking deal had all been pre-arranged.
I remember that now. It was literally, here's the minutes. It's just to say that we're all, yeah, tick and flick. I wouldn't have even read them. The minutes are written before you get in the door.
Stuart Martin is blowing the whistle on an industry riddled with conflicts of interest.
There's no doubt that Tideways and most other companies want a long-term relationship with big builders and developers to guarantee income further down the track. And that's an industry-wide issue. It's where the clashes start to occur.
After Stuart Martin pressed the Paran builder to address the building's defects, he says the strata manager, Tideways, took him off the job. He left the company shortly afterwards.
They wanted to maintain that relationship with the developer, and I was treading on too many toes by doing my job.
After terminating Tideways' contract, Gavin Cooper says the owners successfully forced the builder to fix the building's major defects. In a statement, Tideways said it rejected the allegation of a conflict of interest and was disappointed by the builder's gratuitous comment about how we were awarded the contract. Tideways says it secures work through its record of high performance and that Stuart Martin was replaced after complaints from the Paran Owners Committee. The company's lawyers said Tideways had no responsibility over the leases, as its role was limited to conducting the meeting and recording the minutes. Tideways takes a 20% commission on its clients' insurance policies. But to secure these policies, it uses a broker in which it holds an undeclared interest called Resolute Property Protect. In its contracts, Tideways is required to disclose its beneficial relationships. But here, in its agreement with the Paran building, it reported no such relationships at all. Have a look. There's the section. It's completely blank. Tideways wasn't telling the truth. In fact, in addition to its 20% insurance commission, the company was also receiving an undisclosed share of the broker's revenue. We've gone to the head of that broker's parent company to get some answers. Robert Kelly is the chief executive of Steadfast Group. Resolute Property Protect is an example of a company, is it not, designed to channel funds back to strata managers?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Tideways does not declare its shareholding in Resolute Property Protect. What's your reaction?
I think that that's wrong, and I think that that probably occurs. The specifics, I don't know of that, but I would not be surprised if in some cases they don't do that. I agree.
But, Mr Kelly, you're discussing this as if you're a disinterested third party. In fact, you're the managing director of one of the biggest insurance players in the strata space, if not the biggest, in joint venture arrangements with companies like Tideways, and you're saying it's not your responsibility.
Well, it is to make sure that the people that give us the instruction, we tell them about the transparency of the transaction.
Well, you're not telling them loud enough, are you?
Well, yeah, well, I think that's the gap, and you're on the right track.
Tideways told Four Corners this lack of disclosure was an honest mistake, which has since been rectified. The strata industry is embarking on a major transformation. Corporate raiders now sail these seas. Emboldened by a barrage of takeovers, they're squeezing consumer choice in the chase for ever greater profits. Even wealthy retirees like Rob Vandermeer and strata schemes like his on the Mornington Peninsula are mere cannon fodder.
It seems at every turn we're dealing with the same group of companies. How do we know that we're getting a good offer? about 9:30 at night time, just excessive speed, and it failed to take the corner. Right. And we heard a loud crashing noise.
Rob Vandermeer first glimpsed the industry's corporate metamorphosis after a car accident 4 years ago.
There was a car dangling vertically in the marina. It had gone crashing through a railing, over the boardwalk, down onto a gangway. This is common property, and the owner's corporation manager lodged an insurance claim with a broker.
After the owners lodged the claim, they were left waiting.
Yeah, the contractor, we found out later on, was Johns Lyng Group, which is quite strange because they're an international company involved in what was a relatively small repair, but it still took 12 months.
At about the same time, Rob Vandermeer discovered his strata manager had also asked Johns Lyng to quote for the repair of a set of stairs. Its premium option was 11 stairs for $95,000.
Well, the quote from Johns Lyng was an extraordinary amount. We weren't keen to sort of spend that sort of money.
When he found a cheaper alternative, Johns Lyng slashed its quote by 20%.
Why would somebody, just based on a phone call, cut the price? It just defied logic.
Johns Lyng says it changes its prices according to customer feedback. This was when Rob Vandermeer pieced together the puzzle. His weekender at Martha Cove had become caught in a vortex of interrelated corporations. Martha Cove's strata manager is a company called Cambridge Management Services. Cambridge, in turn, is owned by a larger company, Bright & Duggan. Bright & Duggan, meanwhile, is owned by none other than Johns Lyng, the maintenance contractor which quoted an exorbitant price to replace the stairs. It gets worse. A major shareholder in Johns Lyng is Steadfast Group Limited, the multi-billion-dollar insurance company which also happens to own Martha Cove's insurance broker and underwriter. Confused? Spare a thought for the owners trapped in this web, like these people here at Martha Cove. The bottom line is this: all of these companies have their hands in the owners' pockets.
They're very murky waters, I think. I'd hate to have to unpick that and work out who's getting value. Is it good value?
David Hampton was the chief executive of CHU Insurance when Steadfast announced it would buy the company.
I feel sorry for those lot owners.
Why?
Well, because the propensity to collude and do backhanded deals in the space is very high because people don't know.
When Johns Lyng bought Bright & Duggan, it told shareholders the deal was a game changer because it could cross-sell maintenance work to Bright & Duggan's buildings. But in a statement to Four Corners, Bright & Duggan insists it has no reason to believe Johns Lyng engages in profiteering. Bright & Duggan points out that insurance commissions continue to be rebated to owners and says it's factually incorrect to infer any collusion between it and its associated companies. The corporate buy-up doesn't stop there. This multi-billion-dollar insurance giant has found another way to extract money from apartment owners. When the funds of this strata development ran dry, their Steadfast broker found them a loan from a company called iCumulate. What the broker hadn't told them was that iCumulate was another Steadfast company.
I feel cheated because of the lack of transparency, the fact that it's kept from us. It just doesn't smell right.
Why were the owners not told that the premium funder to which they were urged to go was a sister company?
Well, there's no necessity, I suppose, to do that.
What the owners were troubled by is they felt they were channelled to a Steadfast company by pushing it into a policy which cost it more than what was available elsewhere.
Accumulate is the second largest premium funder in Australia. Do you think it got to be the second largest premium funder in Australia by being twice the price of everybody else? The answer to that question is they could not possibly be like that, OK? So what you're putting to me is not correct.
Four Corners has confirmed with the heads of mathematics at the University of New South Wales that the annual cost rate offered by iCumulate was more than twice that of the alternative loan found by Rob Vandermeer. Independent strata manager David Wellman is breaking ranks and sounding the alarm on dwindling competition. He says Steadfast has offered his company big money to join one of its schemes.
The offer that was made to me was to provide exclusivity over my insurance portfolio, whereby we would receive in return a large cash injection into our business.
And what kind of money are we talking about?
Between, I think, $500,000 to $800,000.
David Wellman says part of the sales pitch was the ability to hide the income.
The way it was sold was, in effect, to allow you to bypass your disclosure obligations, allow you to go to the market or the client, say on the one hand that I'm a really good guy, I'm not taking insurance commissions, but in actual fact, you are. It's hidden in secrecy.
That wouldn't have been from us.
It was from a Steadfast broking network.
Not from us. Whoever told you that's lying.
Robert Kelly does not deny, however, that owners know little about Steadfast's deals with their strata managers to negotiate for their building's insurance.
Apartment owners who hire these strata firms, many of them are none the wiser about this arrangement, are they?
Have no idea, OK? The action goes between the strata broker and the strata manager.
But so Steadfast washes its hands of any kind of obligation to make sure owners know about this, does it?
Well, at law, you're only obliged to give the information to the person that gives you the authority to place the business. And the strata manager is the one who in fact, gives the authority, authorises the insurance and sends the cheque.
So because the law isn't making you disclose it, Mr Kelly, then you're safe not disclosing it?
Well, no, we do disclose it. We disclose it to the strata manager, but then...
You don't disclose it to the owner, do you?
Well, we have nothing to do with the owner.
And in those cases, owners are none the wiser, are they?
They wouldn't... They probably wouldn't... No, definitely.
What do you think owners would say if they knew that their strata manager was out there negotiating with Steadfast to sell their future insurance policies without their knowledge?
There'd be absolute outrage.
The head of the Australian competition watchdog, Gina Cass-Gottlieb, says insurance commissions should be banned.
The receipt of hidden payments and commissions of whatever nature is misleading consumers.
Good morning to everyone.
Steadfast's hold on the market has caught the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission by surprise.
The growth of Steadfast has occurred below the radar. It has amassed a very significant market position with almost no notifications to the ACCC.
This group...
Had Steadfast been forced to notify the ACCC of its many takeovers, its rise could have been prevented, says Gina Cass-Gottlieb.
Informed and confident consumers benefit and are benefited by increased choice, quality and lower prices from effective competition.
The federal government is currently considering this reform.
We are not able to prevent those transactions which are anti-competitive because we don't see them. Steadfast is a good example of this significant problem.
The ACCC boss says commissions are helping drive up the cost of insurance. David Hampton agrees.
There's too much of insurance cost that's allocated to reward the people who sell and service the product. So it could be up to 40%.
One expert we interviewed told us that Steadfast's growth and its web of interrelated commissions and payments between its companies is one of the reasons why insurance costs have been climbing for strata buildings.
No, that's that's the most ridiculous statement I have ever heard anybody say in my life, and I've been in this industry 54 years. So please don't take financial advice off that person or give them any credence if anything you want to know financially, because they do not know what they're talking about.
He said it was, quote, the most ridiculous statement he had ever heard in his life. The competition reforms could come too late for people in apartments. The owners of these apartments on Sydney's North Shore may have already been hit by Steadfast's market dominance. Earlier this year, Mark Swain was struck by a Steadfast broker report which recommended they use CHU insurance, which Steadfast also owns.
We only were provided with one quotation, and that recommendation was that we go with CHU insurance, which turned out that they were actually a sister company with the same owner. This year's quote went up from, say, $9,400 to $11,700 approximately. It was a big jump, a big jump.
The Steadfast Brokers report said a rival insurer, SCI, had withdrawn its offer to insure the building. But Mark Swain had approached SCI directly and he got a quote.
So I actually reached out and we received a direct quotation which was more cost effective than what we'd been provided by the broker. It was significantly more competitive.
SCI told Four Corners it did not ever withdraw its offer of a policy which was $3,000 cheaper. In other words, the Steadfast document was false.
I expect the broker to go around the market and furnish us with different options. And this document that came back from the broker said, we cannot provide you those other options, which was factually incorrect in the end.
The implication was Steadfast had deceived the owners to channel work to its own insurance company.
Mr. Kelly, Four Corners has confirmed that is a false statement.
That's not true.
And SCI did not ever withdraw its offer to insure that building.
That's not true. SCI are telling a great lie about that.
SCI has confirmed it did not ever withdraw that offer of insurance.
Well, they're telling you lies. It wouldn't be the first time.
And you're saying to me, you've got a document which will show SCI withdrawing its offer.
They'll be at BCP. Yes, absolutely that.
Okay. Perhaps you could take that on notice.
I'm happy to do it. Yeah. And by the way, I'm happy to come back to you and say if I can't find one.
Robert Kelly never produced that document, but later claimed the quote was either withdrawn by SCI verbally or Steadfast withdrew it on SCI's behalf. SCI says it never withdrew its offer of insurance and never authorised Steadfast to do so. New South Wales has the most advanced regulation of the strata industry in Australia. But the New South Wales Strata and Property Services Commissioner, John Minns, admits even New South Wales has failed consumers.
Let me acknowledge this up front, that regulation of strata has been a difficult area, and I think many of us would argue it's been under-regulated for a very long time.
Mr Minns concedes the industry has serious conflict of interest problems, but Mr Minns has one too.
Your formal disclosures to the New South Wales government contain a commitment that you sold your interest in Independent Property Group in mid-2021. That is correct, is it not?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And what I'm going to put to you, Mr Minns, is that was not true. Was it?
Yeah, that was true.
am sure I can understand why you're asking the question, and I am limited by legal agreements around all of this.
When he was first appointed 3 years ago, John Minns told the public he had sold his interest in Independent Property Group in mid-2021. But this wasn't true. In fact, he has continued to own a significant interest in the company.
Mr. Minns, your family company, your family trust, continues to own more than 500,000 shares, does it not, in Independent Property Group holdings. Is that correct?
That is correct.
When you said it was important to disclose it, where's the disclosure that you've made publicly?
I had no obligation to make it public, and I have no intention of going further than the conversation that we've had here today.
John Minns insists his disclosure to the New South Wales government was adequate.
For the past 3 years, while you've been a commissioner over the property industry, you've been a shareholder in a major property and strata services company. That is an impossible conflict, is it not?
If the government had viewed it as an impossible conflict, I wouldn't have taken the role on.
After this interview, John Minns was stood aside from his position pending an investigation. In July, aboard a super yacht on Sydney's glittering harbour, the strata industry held its night of nights. They're celebrating their spoils, some $7 billion a year in fees. These privateers have been largely ignored by governments, allowed to run wild.
The people that are making money this way, that way, all over the place, it's just ludicrous.
The New South Wales government claims new laws requiring fuller disclosure of conflicts of interest will mop up the damage. The ACCC disagrees.
Enhanced disclosure obligations don't get to the root of the problem, which is the financial incentive.
But in most states, there's almost no regulation at all.
It has to change. I mean, Australia's had a housing crisis for 20 years. High-density living is being advocated as the solution to that, but people hate it. A lot of people just hate living in strata. I mean, don't mention you're a strata manager at a party. No one will talk to you. The regulators have got to get serious about this thing because it's all going to hell in a handbasket.
There needs to be some significant regulatory overhaul in the way that stratas operate.
Leaving it up to individual strata managers to determine their moral code just doesn't work.
For the foreseeable future, millions of apartment owners have no choice but to watch their own backs.
Strata management, it's really hard.
You can't change things.